Welcome back in, guys. Hope you made it back from the conference tournament videos. I think let's see. I think I picked Florida
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah,
Colorado State, that was a good one. I was a
that
little
one was
early on the
easy.
Michigan State. I was a little early on the Michigan State demise. Oregon played terrible, but hey, you know what? I know we got St. John's too. That's another one. So I
Yeah,
think we did okay.
we
I
had
think
some.
and Houston. Yeah, no. See, we just had to pick all the chalk teams. Which spoiler alert, it's probably going to we're
Yeah,
going to be doing a lot in this too.
yeah,
Historically, just to kick this off, I do want to say historically these one seeds are absolutely ridiculous. Statistically, four of the best teams of the 2000s, all in one season. There's not much else to say about it. So I think this is going to be a little chalky. I think there's some upsets in here. But after the round of 32, man, they're going to be tough to find. So I say we go through. You want to go through just the first round, and then we'll go from there.
yeah, yeah. Let's take off. I'm ready.
So we're recording this during the first four. It doesn't matter. I don't care who Duke's playing. I'll be picking Duke to win that. I assume that we're probably both aligned on that.
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So Mississippi State Baylor is interesting. You got Chris Jans, who I tend to trust a little bit, but the thing is teams that are super good at mucking up games and playing real defensive battles. Yeah, they typically just aren't trustworthy during the tournament, and that's kind of what Mississippi State is. And Scott Drew's obviously been there before, been there, done that, title winner. He's got VJ Edgecombe, Jeremy Roach off the bench. I'm still going to go Mississippi State, I think.
Yeah, I wrestled with this one a little bit. I mentioned on the SEC tournament pod I wanted to take Mississippi State, but I just looked at recently they just hadn't played well, and I think a theme I like when it comes to this tournament, well, I guess to all tournaments really, is teams that are super reliant on one player. I tend to go away from. And I'm just a little bit scared with Mississippi State being so reliant on Hubbard and his ability to score. If he's not scoring, they tend to look like a completely different team. So I think he's a good player. Scott Drew, like you said, is obviously a great coach and has done this before. I'm kind of this is a coin flip game. It's nothing super confident. I think I'm just going to trust. I'm going to trust O'Meara on the boards. I'm going to trust Robert Wright. I'm going to take Edgecombe, guys in the backcourt. I think there are more guys for Baylor that I trust than there are for Mississippi State. And that's as a coin flip game and two teams that really Mississippi State fading a lot down the stretch. Baylor's just been really kind of underwhelming all year. So this is kind of a tough – it's a good 8-9 game because it's a tough matchup. I rode with Baylor, but nothing too confident for me.
Yeah, and you know what? You may have talked me into Baylor, but at the end of the day, does it really matter? Because who are they playing the next round? It's
True.
one of those
That's
things.
true.
Good luck.
Hubbard could have 35 points and win the game by himself, and it's like that's why you take Mississippi State because they have the best player in the
Right.
game. That's probably true.
Yeah. 12-5, I think people have gotten way too caught up in the whole 12-5 thing. The 6-13 the 6 line is usually where I actually like the upsets a little bit more, the 6-11. But Oregon against Liberty. I'm going to trust Dana Altman here. I'm going to roll with Oregon. Liberty's a decent team. Had a nice season in the ASUN, correct, or the A10. But beat Kennesaw State in the finals. Kennesaw State, who took down Rutgers at home earlier this year. But I'm gonna roll with Oregon and Dana Altman here.
I will agree with you on that one for that same reason. This came down to I just really like Dana Altman. We've seen him do this before with much worse teams. They're kind of playing well at the right time here. I know they almost took down Michigan State. They competed really well in that game. Jackson Shellstat's been amazing. He was on the team, I think, a few years ago when Oregon played Georgia first game. I took Oregon a lot in the tournament last year, too. I had high potential for them last year. I'm going to go with them again to beat Liberty. Liberty is really good. I didn't realize this. They're actually a very good three-point shooting team, and they're really good defending the three. I'm going to trust just the veteran Oregon guys and some more talented guys. I don't know if Conference USA was like that good of a conference this year, so
Yes,
congrats to Liberty, but I will take the Ducks here. Yeah.
Yeah. I have my first upset here, and a lot of people probably their first upset's probably the next game we're going to talk about. But give me the Akron Zips over Arizona in this. Arizona burned me 2 years ago. I had them going pretty far, and then of course they lost to Princeton, I believe on Thursday. I'm going to take Nate Johnson, Tavari Johnson, the Johnsons in the backcourt for Akron. Great guard play. Akron was a really tough team this year. I'm going to go ahead and take Akron. I like a little spice early in the early rounds. I don't really believe in Arizona that much, so I'm not afraid to go out on a limb here.
I like it. I wrestled with this one too. John Gross, by the way, is a really good coach for Akron, who will probably be at a bigger job sometime soon, I would imagine. I did wrestle with this one because Akron, great guards, which is huge, obviously, in March. We talk about it every year. I don't know how much I trust Caleb Love. That's the scary thing. Tommy Lloyd, we've seen him, like you mentioned, kind of up and down with some of these tournament games. Scares me a little bit. Yeah. I ended up taking Arizona for the simple fact that I look at the Akron roster. They have basically their tallest guys 6'7" and 6'8". They have two guys 6'7", 6'8". Arizona's got a lot of size. Visar down low, Toby Awaka, even Carter Bryant, who's a really good freshman and probably a lottery pick, are big guys, 6'8", 6'9", even like 7-foot guys. So I just feel like they have a huge advantage there. Now Akron, they're going to be a fast tempo. They're short players, but they want to play fast and they just want to take jump shots. And so if Akron comes out and just makes their shots, which we've seen teams do against,
it's a recipe to win in March. If
it's the recipe to win.
Underdog.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way to do it. This is one of those, like, look, if Akron comes out, you'll know in the first 10 minutes or so, if Akron's feeling in the groove, if they're hitting some shots, they can win the game for sure. So I'm not going to sit here and say Arizona Sharpie or anything. I did take Arizona, but I think Arizona should lock up inside the 3-point line. But if Akron comes out and hits shots, it's going to be a great game. So,
well, it'd be boring if we had all the same picks. So,
exactly.
This next one is one that I read. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about BYU and VCU. I think this may be one of the hardest picks for this entire tournament. I feel like a lot of people are on a VCU upset, but man, BYU shooting the lights out right now.
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of last year. It's actually eerily similar to last year. If you remember, BYU in a 6-11 game against Duquesne, who was kind of the Cinderella. They won the A-10. They're happy to be here. I took BYU, even though the matchup really called for them. They were playing a team that rebounded well, that played good defense, and that limited threes. And I took BYU anyway, and BYU lost. This is kind of a same thing here. In fact, the same conference. VCU wins the A-10. Great defense. They're going to pressure the ball a ton. They take away threes, good 3-point defense there. They're going to force a lot of turnovers, and they're going to crash the glass specifically on offense. VCU scares me a little bit. I think VCU, there's a lot of games in this first round of where it's like, oh, for this higher seeded team, that is the one team they didn't want to play. We'll get to that with Texas A&M tomorrow. That's the one team that they did not want to play. I think for BYU, that was it. They did not want to play VCU. BYU relies way too much on threes, and it just kind of worries me when VCU specialty is taking that away. Max Shulga is the guy to watch, the guard for VCU. He's awesome. I like VCU here, who's playing at a top 20 level in the country since February 1st. So give me the Rams in what seems like a similar spot to last year. A different coach for BYU, a little bit of a different roster, but I do like VCU here. Yeah.
And I mean, BYU only a 2.5-point favorite, and the 6-11 is a very, very profitable upset. I might change my mind 3 times before tip. I have VCU penciled in right now, but I'm still not entirely sure. Hard to trust BYU after last year. Wisconsin, Montana. I'm going to go ahead and roll with Wisconsin. I don't really start getting into upsets until we get after the 3 line, unless I just smell something really fishy. Do you have any comments on this one?
Ken Palm has Montana as the luckiest team in the country by whatever his luck meter is. So I agree with you. It's a bad situational spot for Wisconsin, which I'll get into when we talk the next round, but Wisconsin beats Montana. Yeah.
One of the more interesting games I think here too is St. Mary's and Vanderbilt. As we know, St. Mary's tries to turn every game into a rock fight. Vanderbilt's not by any means a bad team, but I think St. Mary's is probably going to be the play here. And I kind of have St. Mary's going on a little bit of a run, but they're so hard to trust, and they've just been very weird. I know it's I don't feel good about it, man.
You're preaching to the choir on that one. You remember I had St. Mary's in the Final Four last year. They lost to Grand Canyon first round.
I just don't feel good about it. I'm going to take St. Mary's in the first round, but if Vanderbilt wins, I'm not going to be too surprised.
I will also take St. Mary's here. I hate to fade Vanderbilt because I actually was really impressed with them and Mark Byington's
Coach Byington. And me, I'm a member of the Coach Byington coaching tree.
Great.
How I feel about this.
And great. I'll take St. Mary's here. I'm going to get into them more in the next round. It's a little scary. You want to jump into the second round now?
Oh, we got Alabama. Yeah, I'll be taking Alabama. Yeah, so yeah, that's fine. I don't know if you have any Robert Morris comments, but
no Robert Morris comments for me.
Yeah, this is not a situation like a Princeton 15. I think the lower seeds are a lot weaker this year, especially around the 15-16 line. So I'm not expecting anything too crazy, especially with how good the top seeds are. Duke against Baylor, Mississippi State, whichever, pick your poison. I'm taking Duke. Cooper Flag, if he's not healthy by the first game, will definitely be back by this game. So I'm going to go ahead and take Duke.
Yeah, same here. Duke into the Sweet 16. We both have. I've got Oregon, Arizona here. You've got Oregon, Akron.
I got Oregon advancing regardless.
I'm taking Oregon again. Yeah, I'm trusting Dana Altman here. I think that's where you kind of get the wheels.
You look up and Dana Altman's back in the Sweet 16 type situation, you know.
Yes. So Ducks there for me.
Yep. This one's interesting. VCU, BYU, whichever you take against Wisconsin. This is one of the more difficult portions of the bracket that I've had. I've probably gone back and forth on taking out Wisconsin, putting VCU in. I'm like, oh, here's my lower seed kind of, type thing. And then I've got BYU. Well, they're a 6. It's trying to make the numbers work more than the teams, I guess, more than anything. But I'm curious to hear what you got to say here.
I'm riding with the Rams again here. I'm going to take VCU over Wisconsin. Here's the shitty spot, the situational spot for Wisconsin, which actually applies to VCU also. Wisconsin and VCU both played 4 games in 4 days in their conference tournament. They both played on Sunday. Now they're both turning around short rest, playing early on Thursday in Denver, where there's the altitude. So I'm expecting some tired teams, some exhausted teams. So not a great spot for them there. Here's the difference. And like I mentioned with VCU, like Wisconsin is a 3-point shooting team. They want to shoot a lot of threes. I think they're going to – I'm expecting them to be tired here. We saw them tired on Sunday if you watch Wisconsin.
Yeah, the shots were all hitting. The shots were all front iron, every single one of them.
Yeah, and I think you're going to get something similar here. VCU does not rely on threes like that. VCU is all defense, and I think defense travels more, especially when you're tired, than your threes will. VCU also has size. They've got multiple 6'10" guys down low. They will play two of them at a time, 3 of them at a time. They can kind of manage Crowell down low. I think the defense there, I'm going to bank a little bit on some fatigue. But I think VCU, like they match up well with BYU, I think they match up well with Wisconsin. So VCU on to the Sweet 16, baby.
I have a survivor pool, and Wisconsin's one of the teams that I'm heavily considering, along with Iowa State, Kentucky. St. Mary's against Alabama. Man, I took St. Mary's here. I don't feel good about it. I just don't. There's something about Alabama that's not sitting right with me. They're not playing right. They look dysfunctional. They're not playing winning basketball right now. Grant Nelson's also not completely healthy, if I remember that correctly, and that's a problem for them.
You said you took St. Mary's here, or you took Alabama?
Yeah, I'm gonna take St. Mary's.
That's amazing. Okay, so I was gonna say, after what I did last year, coming out here touting St. Mary's, I need to be thrown in prison or something if this does not happen. But I'm also taking St. Mary's too, which is funny. I'm taking St. Mary's on a run again. It's just, I'll say this. I do think even if St. Mary's loses this game, I think they can compete in this game. And we saw Grand Canyon last year in the second round compete with Bama pretty well. But St. Mary's, I fall in love with their metrics every year. And it's they're elite defensively. They're number 5 defense in the country since February 1st. They're a great rebounding team offensively and defensively. They have size. They've got veteran guys. I think Randy Bennett's a really good coach. They're top 15 in 2-point percent defense and 3-point percent defense. They guard shots very well. They guard threes very well, which is obviously great for Alabama. Like you said, Nelson, a little up in the air with his health. We've seen Bama miss shots before. That's what kind of their game. The only thing I would worry about with St. Mary's offensively is they also can't shoot. They've had some pitiful 3-point shooting games. I think their last 2 losses, which was Gonzaga and San Francisco, they combined, I think, for 3 for 36 from 3. I mean, they can't make a 3. I'm going to hope that there's some regression coming around. Make a little bit of threes. You're not going to make a lot. Make a little bit. And I think they can hang around this game. I'm choosing them to win. So
against our better judgment.
I'm doing this dance again with them. Yeah.
That was the joke, as we said, if Georgia ended up playing St. Mary's, it'd be a race to 45.
And it would.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Duke over Oregon, and I'm going to take VCU over St. Mary's. So that's going to be a 1. There's your 11. That's I guess snuck in there somehow. Even if you have St. Mary's, I guess a 7's good. I mean, somebody's going to get popped. I don't know who it is. One of the top 3 seeds in each of these is going to get popped. It's just hard for me to pick. Maybe Iowa State, but we're not there yet. We've gone all this way just to say that I don't think anybody's going to beat Duke in this region. Even if they match up with Alabama, I don't see it happening. I know, the Bama fans are going to be upset playing against their favorite basketball team, but
This was the easiest region for a 1 seed. I think this was the one region where I looked at the 1 seed and I said Final Four. I think Auburn will be challenged. I think Florida's got the hardest region. Even Houston.
Florida's is crazy.
Yeah.
But I think Duke has the easiest path by far, which is crazy considering that Auburn was the number 1 overall seed. But I think that Duke is going to pretty easily walk with this region. I don't know. Do you have VCU over this VCU St. Mary's? You got anybody?
I took St. Mary's at first on my first bracket just because I've harped on VCU defending the threes well, and St. Mary's doesn't shoot. St. Mary's works in other areas, and I don't know by that point if they they're not playing to VCU's defensive strengths. I may come around and take VCU, though. I think at that point, that's a coin flip game to me, and so I will decide that game probably Wednesday night because I can't think of it now. That's my Elite Eight. Like you said, it doesn't matter. Duke's going to win.
I have St. Mary. I think I have St. Mary's in my actual bracket. I have St. Mary's right now. It's funny. We always end up doing this. We always think that we're going to be so different. We always end up in the same place.
It's the same thing, especially St. Mary's, man.
The St. Mary's thing was funny because I was like, this is such a gross pick. And I was like, Larson's going to think I'm an idiot for taking him over Bama. But
I'll say this, though. I have one more 11 seed in the Elite Eight. So it's not VCU, there's someone else. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and say if somebody does come out of this region that's not Duke, I don't think it's Alabama. I think it might be Oregon. Unless they play like they did against Michigan State.
I think Oregon. I'd go Oregon or Wisconsin, which is funny because I just sat here and talked about how I don't like Wisconsin. I think it's Oregon or Wisconsin if it's not Duke. Yeah.
All right. Hey, well, that wraps up the East region. We'll be back real soon to talk I believe the South. I think. Oh no, the West. We'll talk about the West next. What's up, guys? Welcome back. If you haven't checked out our video breaking down the South region, go ahead and check that out. I think there's a little more intrigue in here. I think this is by far the most difficult region, which I can say I'm happy that Florida drew that. I don't think it's going to matter in the end. Spoiler alert. But Florida is going to take care of Norfolk State off the bat. Now, the most intriguing game is probably the second one on the 8-9 line, again, with UConn and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's not a bad team. Jeremiah Fears is a really, really good player, but at the end of the day, it's still Dan Hurley. And we're still talking about a team that won 12 tournament games in a row by an average of about 22 points. So I'm not gonna, you can throw your matchups out. I'm not picking against UConn yet. So give me UConn right here.
This was like the Baylor Mississippi State game. I don't really even know because I mean, we haven't seen Oklahoma do anything good for a while, I feel like, but Fears has been playing super well. And UConn struggles defending like really shifty guards like that. I feel like they've struggled kind of all year like that. And this isn't the same UConn team. I did take UConn though. I can't believe I couldn't find myself to pick Oklahoma after watching them since basically January and what they've done.
Yeah.
So
and we just talked about it with Mississippi State Baylor after the next round. I don't think it matters.
Right.
If it is Oklahoma, I think Florida beat them by 25 already. So that'll be interesting to see. The 5-12, this is an interesting 5-12 because I believe this is one of the very few finals of 12 actually going to be favored. Colorado State against Memphis. I think if you're going to pick a 12-5 matchup, this is the one you should pick. I don't really like a lot of the other 12 seeds, mainly because Neat Clifford is insane. Jalen Lake, very good. Keon Evans, 3 great guards. All 3 of them, I think, shooting over 35% from 3. I think 2 of them shooting over 40% from 3. And they're the hottest team in America. I think that's the easiest way to put it. It's a shame because I really like Memphis in this tournament. And this is funny because I keep running into this problem with Memphis. And the last time I was like, man, I really like Memphis, but I don't think they're going to win this first round game. They're playing Florida Atlantic. It was the 8-9 game. The Florida Atlantic went to the Final Four with Dusty May. And that Memphis team was playing good ball too. So I don't know. I'm going to go against Memphis here. And if Memphis wins, I wouldn't be surprised if they went on a little bit of a run. But give me Colorado State here.
Yeah, like you said, Colorado State. They're one of the hottest teams since February 1st. They're a top 20 team in the country. They have been playing well. In Mountain West tournament, they played Utah State and Boise State, 2 tough teams, and they blew them out. So they're playing hot. Neat Clifford, like you said, great player. The big key for Memphis, Tyrese Hunter, not healthy. Probably, I don't think he's playing. I actually don't know. So that's a huge thing.
Haggerty had 42 points against Wichita State. And they
Haggerty might be able to carry them. But like I mentioned with Mississippi State in the last one, it's a little too reliant. They're a little too reliant on him. Dane Danger should be able to have a good game because I think Colorado State's a little undersized is the only thing I worry about. And we always have to talk about the Mountain West in this tournament. how bad
it's just true.
they are.
It's just true.
It's the same thing, and so it's like, are you going to buy into it? Because I bought into it last year and I got burned. It was a bad bracket, but the Mountain West was a better conference overall than the American was. So I don't know. I think it's worth mentioning this game is in Seattle, shorter travel for Colorado State. They also have one more day of rest. I'm taking Colorado State. I don't feel great about it. So this is subject to change. There's just a gut feeling here. I don't know. There's also, I think, something interesting to note is Nico Medved, who is a great coach for Colorado State, who, if you don't know his name, you should learn his name now. Like, has like basically 2 feet out the door, is looking for his next job, and I think has already figured out kind of where he's going. I don't know if that affects anything. I'm taking Colorado State now. I don't feel great about it. I might change it, but
well, see, the thing is, this is another situation where I don't think they're going to make it past their next stop anyway, so it doesn't bother me that much.
Right.
Because next we have Maryland and Grand Canyon, and here's the thing about Maryland: the Crab Five. I get it; it's a fun nickname, but when you really break that down and you think about it, Larson, I don't claim to be a basketball expert, but how many guys are on the floor at the same time? It's 5, right?
I don't like where this is going.
When you talk about who has the best 5 guys, like Maryland is up there. And
absolutely,
you could talk about depth. You could talk about, you could talk about how deep a team can go. You could say, oh, well, we got 11 guys that can play. All right, well, tournament time, that doesn't matter. These rotations are getting shortened up, and your 5 guys, when you need your 5 best guys on the floor to win a game, I trust Maryland over a lot of other teams. So I'm going to take Maryland. Grand Canyon obviously has been very good in this tournament as of late. Shout out to Bryce Drew and the Lopes. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and take Maryland, and I'm going to have Maryland advancing pretty far.
I like Maryland a lot. Yeah, this region really hurt me because there are 4 teams here. Maryland's one of them. Texas Tech, St. John's, and Florida too. Teams that I really, really like all year, and was really intrigued to have them in different regions and pick them possibly for Final Four. Like, Maryland's a Final Four caliber team to me, and I hate this draw to get all these teams in there. I do like them in this one. Tyon Grant Foster, everyone remembers him last year for Grand Canyon, who's a really good player, but he has not been the same this year. Very inconsistent, very hurt on and off. Not the same guy that we saw last year. And I'll say the same thing I said for the Big Ten tournament video. Maryland's losses, all of these losses, it's 1 point, 3 points, 2 points, 4 points. It's extremely close losses. This is a really good team. The depth should not hurt them here. That will hurt them later on down the road. That's where we're worried about the bench players when you get maybe Sweet 16 against Florida. But I like them in this game. That starting 5 is great. It's a great team playing great defense. I think Grand Canyon is not the same team they were last year.
Yeah. And I'm pretty confident in Maryland at a Maryland-Florida matchup. Call it chalk. You call it whatever. I'm going to call it the two best teams that are going to be seeing each other, I think.
Yeah.
Up next, Missouri and Drake. I told you I like my 6-11 upsets. Give me another one. I'm taking Drake in this game. Hey, Bennett Sturts, electric. I do think Mark Mitchell is actually playing in this game, which does has a little bit of a wrinkle. And Drake is also not a very good free throw shooting team. But I like Drake. I kind of like their vibe. I like they got a little buzz. They're one of those pesky tournament teams that I promise if you see them on the 11 or the 12 line, you're like, shit, I do not want to play these guys. And I think Missouri has not been playing their best ball lately. This is one of my favorite upset picks. Give me Drake right here.
I like Drake too. I think they're plus 6.5. If you're a betting person, I love the money line there too. I like Drake a lot. Missouri, like you said, faded down the stretch. There's not a lot of confidence in this team. Drake, I know, full of D2 guys, and Ben McCollum's done a great job coming from D2. They haven't lost. They don't know how to lose. All they do is win. They play a super slow pace. I like finding these teams like St. Mary's, and the last one we mentioned is a team that plays a really slow pace. They're going to control every game and make every game basically the way they want it to be. Missouri plays fast. Not to mention, too, Drake will get to the free throw line a ton, and Missouri fouls a lot. It's free points. So I like Drake a lot here. The tempo, the winning, the players. I just like the vibe of this team much better than Missouri right now. So I do like Drake. I'm going with them too.
Yep. And that might not be the end of things for these guys, who they would be playing. I think Texas Tech is going to win their first game, but I don't think Texas Tech is perfect. So I think there's some flaws there. I do think they'll win the first round game. They'll be fine. But they've got some injury troubles of their own. Wouldn't exactly pencil them in against Drake in this next round. But we can move on unless you think UNC Wilmington's gonna make a little noise here.
I don't. I like Texas Tech a lot. We'll get to that in the next round. Let's go to the 7-10. The most interesting geographical region, Providence, Rhode
I
Island.
think this is the best shitty game.
It is a great. Yeah, it is.
I'm going to take Arkansas, mainly because I've watched Kansas a lot this year. I saw them with my own two eyes at Champions Classic to start the year, which is funny because they pushed around Michigan State a little bit, and they
Yeah.
suck. They're not good. I thought they were going to be one of the best teams in the country coming into the year with all the experience they were bringing back. Hunter Dickinson, frankly, just hasn't been that good. Their transfers have been disappointing, and they just don't play that well. I'm sorry, they kind of stink. I don't like them, and I'm taking Arkansas for that reason.
Yeah, and they're like we said for the Big 12 video, they are a very different team outside of Allen Fieldhouse too. The one thing I worry about in this game is I can see myself picking Arkansas and then Bill Self kind of just having a masterclass and just out running circles around Cal, and me being like, I cannot believe I took Calipari against Bill Self in the tournament.
Yeah.
So I don't
Boogie
know.
Fland is playing.
He's
Important.
playing. This is the same guy though. They were what 0-5, 0-6 with him. I'm sure things are different now. Maybe. I very, very reluctantly took Arkansas in this. I'm a little scared. And I would not say this is one of those games where it doesn't matter for the next round against St. John's. Because I like St. John's a lot. And I think St. John's wins. For spoiler, I think St. John's beats whoever they play here, but I think Arkansas could make it maybe a little bit closer than people think.
Yeah, I think Alabama State just hit a buzzer beater, by the way. I just got like 4 texts.
No way. Is that what it is? Okay. I was wondering.
Or somebody, St. Francis spied up. I see 1 second on the clock and it's a 2-point game. So we'll talk about that live as I guess we get some information. But I'm going to take St. John's over Omaha. I like Omaha's vibe. They feel like a team that maybe could have been destined for this, but I feel like this is a well coached team. I feel like Rick Pitino.
Yeah.
I feel like he knows what this team is and he knows what they're not, and what they're not is a team that can shoot worth a damn. So he's not going to try to turn them into a 3-point shooting team. I think that St. John's will be okay. They're a team that's probably, if you're looking for a 2 seed that's probably going to lose in the first round, it's probably St. John's. I'm not going to go that far. I think they're going to win this game. But I'm very wary of taking St. John's very far. So we'll see.
Yeah. I took St. John's in this one. We both have 3-11, Drake, Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're taking Drake, I think.
I'm thinking about it.
I'm taking Texas. I'm going to take Texas Tech. I like what Drake's done a lot. I think Texas Tech is very unique. The way that their roster is constructed. You mentioned their health concerns. I am a little concerned about that. I'm going to hope that they're ready to go because they rested. I can't remember who it was. They rested 2 guys in the Big 12 tournament, kind of just in preparation for this. I don't know if that's going to matter that much against Drake. I do respect Drake. They've had a great year. I'm taking Texas Tech against them though.
Yeah, I think this is really the only point of contention that we're going to have here because I'm going to take Maryland over Colorado State. I'm going to take Florida over UConn, and I'm going to take St. John's over Arkansas. Excuse me.
Yep. Yeah, we both have Maryland moving on. This is the chalky region to me. If there's a region, this is the only region I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Elite Eight, and that's how I have it too. I think getting to the Sweet 16 games, I think Maryland can beat Florida. I don't
think they will, but I think they can.
That's my thinking. I don't think they will. I'm gonna have Florida here, but I think Maryland can. And this is the game where that depth is going to come into concern. When Florida can throw 5 guys that use 6'10" or bigger, Condon, Handlog, and all those guys, they can throw all that at Maryland, and Maryland basically is bringing off Geronimo and one other guy off the bench. I think that's where it will catch up to them. So I respect Maryland. I like Maryland a lot. I think this is a Final Four caliber team. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Florida. I really wouldn't, but I'm taking the Gators. Yeah.
Yes, Alabama State did hit a buzzer beater. We'll have to watch that after we hop off of here. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm taking the Gators as well. I'm going to take them. St. John's is a team. If you want to take Texas Tech over them, I'm not going to blame you. They don't profile as a team that is going to go very far, especially it's these preseason duds, I guess you would say. Michigan State's another example, which, spoiler alert, I have Michigan State going pretty far. But if you want to put your eggs in a basket, you can say, all right, well, one of them's coached by Rick Pitino and the other one's coached by Tom Izzo. So, those are guys that have dragged multiple underachievers to the Final Four, I would say. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to take Florida over St. John's, the one over the two. Yeah, whatever. I'm sorry. I just think if we're talking about brackets that I'm putting my money on, which I am, I'm in multiple, pools with my friends and things. I'm going to go with the two best teams, and I think that they're the two best teams. If you want to take Texas Tech over them, I might entertain that. I'm not sold on Drake beating Texas Tech entirely just yet, but Drake's solid. If there's an 11 seed to make a run, I wouldn't be surprised if it's them in the slightest. So I'm just going to be a little more cautious after predicting New Mexico to the Final Four last year and they lost in the first round. So
that's speaking of the Mountain West, and we'll get to New Mexico too because I am going back and forth with them in the South region. There's another 11 seed I like. Drake is not the one for me. I'm going Florida over Maryland. I'm going to go Texas Tech over St. John's, and I think I like Florida a lot. I worry about how trendy they have become, and watching bracketology on Sunday, an hour after the bracket comes out, and all four guys have Florida winning the championship. It's a red flag. It's a red flag.
I feel like they're kind of shitting on my lawn. It's what really annoys me because I've kind of been on Florida. Like I texted you that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that these guys can really do it, and I think they're probably playing the best ball. And then of course they win the SEC, and now everybody's.
Well, in Florida, so Florida probably deserved to be the number one overall seed, but it's funny that we went in like a 3-week span from. If you got on Twitter was telling you Auburn is a generationally great team. That is one of the greatest teams we've ever seen. And now 3 weeks later, everyone says Florida's the best team in the country. I'm not saying one of them's wrong or right. It's just funny that we switched that quickly.
I
don't know. So Elite Eight, I'm going to take Texas Tech. I'm taking Texas Tech back to the Final Four. I think they beat Florida. Florida, a team that can play defense, a team that can shoot, and a team that has depth, and a team that has guards and size. They check all the boxes. You know who else I think does? I think Texas Tech does. And I'm going to bank on them being healthy. They've got 3 great guards. They've got 3 great forwards. JT Toppin's awesome. They bring a lot of guys off the bench. I like the job they've done. They can shoot. They can defend. They check all the boxes for me. And I think Florida at some point, Florida's bound to have a bad game at some point. We've seen them play so well, so consistently, basically, except for really, I guess, the game in Athens, which they still almost came back and won. They've played so well for so long. I think Texas Tech is a good matchup for them. I think Texas Tech can win that game. I'm having Grant McCasland not go back, but go to the Final Four. I think Texas Tech is back the way they were in 2019. So, Red Raiders.
You may have talked me into it, but I think we're both in agreement though that this is going to be a top seed. It's just such a top-heavy tournament.
Region. This is the chalky region.
Yeah, and I think at least Florida winning 2 games, I think is a pretty safe bet. And maybe Maryland will disrupt that. Once again, I think they got the best 5, but one of these, I think the 1, 3, and the 4 St. John's, I don't totally trust, but I think those are probably your best bets. Hey, breaking news, all the favorites are probably going to make it, but that's going to wrap up the West region. I think this is the most difficult one to pick by far. I think it has most good teams. Even a team like Memphis, who I have coming out in the first round, I wouldn't be that surprised if they made a little bit of a mini run.
My tough ones. We'll do a tough one tomorrow for me is Midwest. Midwest, my toughest. We'll get to that.
Well, we're gonna have to pick against our own guys, and then Gonzaga is a team that could actually. The first 1 seed to go out might be Houston against Gonzaga or the Georgia Bulldogs. Who knows? But we'll get to that tomorrow. And I have a feeling I know what 11 seed you like, and they may not even be playing. So I guess we're gonna have to see.
We'll see.
All right, guys. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for us. We appreciate y'all tuning in, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.